3, 2.
Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 37 of the VR Inside podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on Nathie's YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live at the new times of 7 p.m. in Europe. There's a review there that would help us out very much, so please go ahead and do that. If you've got any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. So if you're new to the show, let me introduce you to the team. So this guy, this week, he was sent on a secret mission to infiltrate the machines to prevent Skynet from happening in the future. It is, of course, Nathie. How you doing, dude? You all right?
Yes, I'm doing all righty-tighty. I have been fighting against the machines once again. You know, the Terminators are coming. Beware, everyone.
Were you successful in your mission?
I dressed up as a Terminator myself, and I got very deep into the rabbit hole. So yeah, I'm still like trying to figure out what they are like planning. You know.
Good. Well, let's keep us updated on how you get on with that, dude. I'd be interested to know.
Sure.
So you've got to be careful with this next guy because he likes to use pincers on people's balls. Yes, of course. Oh, rowdy guy. How you doing, dude? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. You know, I've been practicing with indeed some pincers over the weekend. It's been good fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been painful. Mostly painful, but yeah, I'm all right. I've had a good week. Yeah,
good. So next up, this guy, after putting his mind, body, and soul on the line for science last week, it appears our resident VR Twitch streamer has some back trouble. So, you know, if you could please put your prayers in emoji form in the chat. Every prayer will give him a little HP boost. So please show him some love. It is our resident Twitch streamer, of course, ZimTok5. How you doing, dude? You all right?
It's like Brokeback Mountain intro, Mike. It's a pelvis problem, technically, that I've got.
Okay.
From, too much interaction with my chat.
Yeah. But are you on the mend? Like, I know that you haven't been streaming much because you've been in pain, right? So.
Yeah. It's been hard, actually. The last kind of 7 days have just been like a little elf has been jumping up and stabbing me with a knife in my arse, like, constantly. So that's been really draining and stuff. So I haven't been able to put the show on until just yesterday. Actually, did kind of the first runs, and so I've done 2 streams and I managed them. But I'm not perfect yet. I'm getting physio help, but. Otherwise, okay. It's given me a good excuse to play a lot with the Go, so I'll be reporting back on that.
Great excuse. So like I said, send your little prayers in emoji form in the chat, and Zim will just heal magically throughout the show. Last but by no means least, myself, Mike, the host of the show from Virtual Reality Oasis. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Boss Key Studios' unannounced VR titles. These are the cool games that you'll probably never get to play. We're going to be talking about the VR League Season 2. Do you have what it takes to be a future VR esports star? The Pimax 8K, we've got some updates there. Will we be experiencing the super wide field of view of the Pimax anytime soon? Well, we'll soon find out. And finally, the Google Plastic. Will this be the next Google Cardboard? Stay tuned to find out. So let's start this show off with finding out what we've been up to this week in the metaverse. And let's start it off with ZimTok5, because you've been playing with your Oculus Go because you've been sort of out of commission. So what have you been playing on your Go, dude?
Yeah, so the Go, first I just say it again, Go's great. I love the Go. And I kind of wish the Go, although someone just told me a great hack to connect it to the PC, I would say, the fact that it doesn't like come back to base camp and tether to a PC, I wish it did, because the screen is so fucking good. I love the lenses on it. It like takes the God rays. I don't know about you guys, no God rays, and just like, it's amazing. So with that, I've been playing there's one title I wanted to call out, which is kind of like, I equate it to Super Meat Boy in first person with your face. So it's a roguelike game called Vulcan. It looks a lot like Firewatch in terms of its look and feel. Like the aesthetic is very cartoony, and it's procedural generation. And essentially what you're doing, it is head motion tracking. So you're moving from platform to platform with your head and pressing a button to jump. The idea is don't miss a jump. and so you just have to keep going. But as you're going, things are happening, like saw blades are dropping in front of you, crevasses are opening up, stuff gets in your way. So it's like you're trying to go as long as possible. I've gone as far as 53 meters in the game. That's as far as I could go in like half an hour playing it. And the longest, someone's gone 1,000 meters. How they've gone that long without fecking up, I don't know. But that game is worth a look. I don't think it's very much money, but that one has really stood out to me. And then I've played a few other things, and I just mentioned on Rift, the one that I think everyone, you guys need to check out if you haven't played this. The list of the credits went on for about 6 minutes. Like, that's how many people were involved in this production. It's a 360, also stereo depth art piece video called Alteration, and it's about it's very much like the Spotless Mind, the movie, something The Spotless Mind, where there's a guy who goes in, he's trying to generate a bit of extra cash, so he goes into a science experiment, and they introduce an AI into his brain, and that AI kind of fucks him up. And it's it's just like, I won't say it's an acid trip, it's like some weird sci-fi screw fest. It is just a really weird but very well done art piece. And it like Sonar, when I suggested Sonar, you gotta try that. So for Rift, I'd say Alteration, and for Go, Vulcan is very good.
And I think the movie you were referring to was Eternal Sunshine
of the Spotless Mind. I can't even, it's my favorite film of all time, and I can't even remember the name. It's just too complicated.
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. So talking about Vulcan, you mentioned that. I'd never heard of that game before, but it sounds really cool. Like, did you suffer from any sort of motion sickness? Because it sounds kind of an intense experience, or was it okay? Was it really comfortable to play?
No, there's not been a single title on the go that I've had any kind of stomach jerk at all. Nothing so far.
Yeah, so the ones that I've had some issues with are some of the flight sims. I don't know why that is. Like, there was
3DOF. Yeah,
there was a World War II flight sim. I haven't tried Ultra Wings with the Go yet, but I don't know why they just sort of get me. They trigger me a little bit, but
it's probably lateral motion, Mike. It's probably, like the side to side motion, because sometimes in the aerodynamic thing they like have a model whereby you will slide like that, and if you're doing that in a 3DOF headset, it can definitely get you. But I would say it's been largely comfortable so far. I'm really surprised.
The other one, just while I'm on the subject of it, it was Rush. I tried that one as well, and that sort of got me going a little bit. Yeah, but I suppose it's an intense game by its very nature anyway.
Also, I played a game that you recommended last week, Mike, only for a short time, because I was in a grumpy mood. I didn't want to like ruin it, but I played virtual reality. And man, I agree with you that it's stellar. It's like AAA. It's fucking awesome.
It is. Yeah, it is. It really is a great game. It really is a great game. But I'm looking forward to checking out Vulcan now you've mentioned it. So let's move it on to Nathie and find out what you've been playing this week, dude.
Well, thanks for shooting this one off, Zim, because I wanted to talk about virtual reality. For me, this was definitely the best game I played on the go so far, and it's been around for like a year, because you can also play it on the Google Daydream. You can also just slide in one of your phones, as far as I know, and use it that way. But so basically this game is about you working in VR, okay? So there is apparently there is a facility out there that uses humans. It's a bit like Job Simulator, where you work in VR for other people. And you need to go on all kinds of adventures to help others out there that are actual computers. So you're doing work for computers. And it's such a random game, because they use a system that is pretty much VRception, where you grab a headset in the game because you're already in the game. Then they say like, hey, can you grab this headset? You put it on, and then you are in another world. But in that world, you find another headset, and you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And sometimes they also pull you back to the facility where you came from in the first place. So it's like 4 or 5 headsets, they just pop off, It's like, oh, and then you see all the worlds again you were in before. So it's really playing with your mind. And it's funny though, it's a shame the Go has no room scale, you can't walk around. It has no positional tracking. I was really missing that in this one. When I was going into one of the worlds, it was like a garden. I was like, oh, I just want to walk around here a bit. You did get the feeling of that, but in the end, like that's something I was missing at that moment. It's like, oh, but now I want to really walk around. But for a mobile game, it's really, really good.
Did you taste a little bit of Portal in that? Because in the humor, like there's definitely accounting and job sim.
Yeah, job simulator, accounting, and Portal indeed. Yeah, just a robot trying to capture you and try to like chase you and do experiments with you. But the storyline is just pretty simple, but it's fun, it's interactive, it's one of the best games I've played on a mobile device, and it really builds up the respect for me of what you can do with a mobile headset, because there is enough out there that is like crap, but this is something like this could be a PC game.
Yeah,
this could be an actual PC game. So there's one thing I did notice, and you guys were talking about this last time. So I did notice a lot of flickering in this title, because there's a lot of white, and it just at the start it flickers like crazy. And one thing you can do to like kind of fight that is by adjusting the brightness in the Go itself. So yeah, you could do that, but in the end, yeah, that is kind of like a problem. But that's what I've been playing, and it's fun. So you can buy it for like $10 or something like that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's $7.99 in British pounds.
And Mike, you said like it's like 3-4 hours playtime.
Yeah, so like I was testing a battery out, so I had like 14 hours playtime to play loads of different games. And so I played it to the end, and yeah, it took me probably about 3 hours to finish, but there is so much exploration you can do and really sort of go off the track and experience these other sort of crazy little worlds within worlds. So it has got depth to it, but once you've completed it, I wouldn't say you would go back to it, but it's definitely one of the must-have titles, I think, on the Oculus Go.
It's very impressive, and not only visually, but also audio-wise. Like the audio is very, very good compared to the other ones I played so far. Like I recorded it too, so I could listen to it later down the road, and I noticed that there is so much more depth in the audio compared to the other things I played so far. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, it's an awesome one indeed. So what about you, Rowdy? What you been up to with your Pickle Rick t-shirt on? I love that t-shirt, man. Pickle Rick.
The thing that I would like to highlight, I've played a bunch of titles this week as well, but the thing that I would like to highlight, I played one suggestion by Sven. There was VRFC, the football simulator game. It was hilarious. I had so much fun in that one. I didn't even dare to go online because I was so terribly good. In the video that I made, I scored a goal. Well, I thought I scored a goal, and it took me like roughly 20 minutes to figure out that it was actually my own goal that I scored it. So I was like cheering, like, yay, I scored. And my teammates, they didn't say anything, of course, because I was playing against AI. But I actually scored on my own goal. It was hilarious, and I was absolutely exhausted of that, because you need to run with your feet like this, like you're like running the entire time over the field. The only thing I didn't like is because I only have 2 senses for my Rift. It keeps on telling me like turn around. I don't know if it also does that for the 3 senses. I don't know if you can set that somewhere, but it's I find it freaking annoying that I had to like press a button to like focus on the ball, because that's what it does. Like it focuses on the ball. But I had a lot of fun in that title. And then the one that I would like to highlight in this episode is probably Red Matter, the ball pitching game. And did any of you guys played that one as well already, or you haven't checked it out yet?
So I played it for 2 minutes before the show, but that was it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So what they asked was to show just a short portion of the game yet, because they don't want to spoil too much before the big release, which makes sense. We talked about it in the last episode as well. It's very slow paced narrative. I like that. I always like that kind of stuff. It's very visual, very like a distinct art style that you have in there.
That opening,
and indeed, like
that lighting in the opening is like
yeah. It's really I liked it. I liked it a lot. There's like something spooky going on as well, like that is weaving in between in the story. I like that kind of stuff. I don't know how spooky it's going to get. Then I might not like that stuff anymore, since I also, per your suggestion, Mike, I actually played Face Your Fears.
Oh man, yeah. How did you go with that?
I actually just released my video on that, but it was a funny video to watch. To do was a little bit less funny.
It's really interesting you mentioned Face Your Fears because a lot of the experiences, a lot of people have been commenting on my video saying that only 2 experiences actually are available for the Rift, like where there's about 8 maybe for the Go and the Gear VR. Yeah, so a lot of those experiences on mobile are exclusive to mobile. You don't get them on the Rift.
Because I did the Stranger Things one.
Nice.
I actually liked it so much that I started watching the series now, so it's actually kind of funny. So developers, it works, huh? Advertising and virtual reality.
Yeah. So you'd never seen Stranger Things before?
No.
Oh man, it is so good. I'm excited for you, man.
So Rowdy, what did you think about the gameplay mechanics of Red Matter and the way you move, like the locomotion?
They solved it in a smart way, I think. I don't like it that there's no complete free locomotion, but they did comment on my video stating that they were going to release a patch very soon.
It's in already. Actually, it was in yesterday. I played it that way.
Now I haven't tested it with that patch yet. I don't know if it's actually hand tracked or if it's head tracked, since that might be an issue for me.
It's hand tracked.
It's hand.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Yeah,
but
that's the best way to go about it.
It's worth mentioning now because I was going to mention it in the small news, but like you said, they have released a patch prior to the release. So the release is the 24th, so next Thursday. But they've been getting a lot of feedback from the community and people that have played the game already. A lot of people were asking for free locomotion, so they have updated it, and that's what I checked out just before the show because I just wanted to compare the 2 locomotion methods. So you kind of got like a teleport where you boost up into the air like a little space hop.
But that makes sense though. From the perspective of the game, I didn't really have that much of a problem with that, as it makes sense from a narrative kind of point. You know, they wanna like boost you up and like, oh yeah, you also have those like weird little hand things. It all makes sense in the narrative of the game, and I like that kind of stuff. But indeed, like the dashing forward for the short distances, I was really a big fan of that.
Yeah, like I tried it out, and I prefer probably the original locomotion method. Like the smooth locomotion, I get it that people want it and people ask for it, but it is becoming one of those things that if people don't have it in a game, then people just use that as an excuse to hate on a game, right? Yeah. But like you say, this is kind of the whole method is woven into the story of the game. Like that's the narrative. But yeah, I prefer the original one, but the smooth locomotion is there, so at least you've got options if you want to use it, I guess.
And I'm with you, Rowdy, on this. So having played this, it's really interesting. Played this in OC4, played it again now. There's almost 0 differences. So what they've done, obviously, is focus on the later content. But I'd say the visuals stood out to me. Like, they were really strong. But similar to what you were saying, Mike, I've not seen this in another game, the kind of what I call the jettisoned jetpack. So you can slow down or you can speed up your jetpack motion, and that's great. It feels great. The only thing that is every so often I want to fall backwards when I'm doing that. But then
I didn't really use that. I did it like a couple of times with like the speeding up and the speeding backwards. It did add a lot of like tension to the game though, because for the more like scary parts, you have like a certain part where like some crates are floating around the corner. So I teleported behind the corner, and then you can't stop that as well. You know, you just go, and I was like, what am I going to see there? What am I going to see there? What am I going to see there? What am I going to? There's nothing there. Okay, good. Next part. What am I going to see?
It's a really good point you mentioned about the fact that it's tension. Yeah, because you're fixed on it. Once you pick your teleport point, you're on that track.
You're there. Yeah.
And it's interesting because like it kind of brings me onto a nice segue of what I played this week, because I played Daedalus, which is made by the same studio, Vertical Robot, right? So Daedalus is a Gear VR title, but they've got this awesome sort of locomotion mechanic in the game where you do kind of bounce and you sort of jump and glide. So it's almost like a very similar locomotion mechanic that they've used in Red Matter as well, because on Daedalus you basically use the button to use your power to jump, and then when you're in the air you press the button again, and then you just glide like really slowly to the next platform, because it's kind of like a puzzle platformer.
Is Daedalus a controller game, Mike? Is it a gamepad requirement?
No. So you just use the Go remote, the Go controller. Yeah, you just press it once to jump, and then another time to glide, and then that's basically the mechanic of the game. And it's very simple, very sort of minimalistic in terms of its art style, but it's very sort of like, I just had a really good time. Like I felt really relaxed playing it. It was almost like a Zen-like experience. I would kind of describe it that way. And I played it a lot, obviously, during my monster play session. The best way to play it, I think, is if you're sitting down in a swivel chair, you can just rotate 360 then, and then face the way you want to jump, and then just do it, and then glide. But when you're gliding, it just feels so nice.
It's a puzzle game, is it, Mike? I wasn't really sure.
It's kind of like a puzzle game in that you've got to work out where to go, like, and what buttons to get to, and how to get to them is like a little bit tricky, especially near the end. So it's not really a puzzler as such, but there's like
puzzle platformer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, more like a Windlands type thing, almost.
Exactly, like Windlands, but you kind of
not really like there's not really combat involved in this.
No combat. You don't die. You know, if you fall, then you just reset at the beginning of the level again. So it's very chilled out in that sense. But again, it's one of those Go titles that has been out on the Gear for a while, but maybe not really. No one's really had a chance to pick it up or check it out. But now that if you've got a Go, then I would definitely recommend you go and check Daedalus out. It's a really good one. So that is
Mike, just before we move away from that, because I don't think we talked exactly about what the release. So we talked about the free locomotion movement, but just to describe how it works is, so you've got red matter or whatever using the touch control. The free locomotion is triggered with the grip. So you hold the grip, and you will. It's very much, I'll call it like Skyrim PSVR. So in Skyrim, the way they get around not having enough buttons is you hold down one button, you point with your hand in the direction you want to walk, and it goes in that direction. And it's kind of like, it's on or off, basically. And it's the same thing here. So you're basically gripping to go forward at a set speed, and then you can move your hand like a fish, and you'll move like a fish as you're moving forward. That's their free locomotion patch. And I thought it was okay, but like you, Mike, the other method was better, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. I think it just appeases those people out there, the haters.
It's a smart move. It's a smart move. Don't get me wrong. I think that's.
It's always good. It's always good to have options at the end of the day.
So. That's it.
But yeah, we haven't really got many sort of big stories this week, but we've got lots of little bite-sized morsels for you guys and girls to chew on. So let's move on to Sensor Bounds, because this is an unusual little application. It's available for free on Oculus Rift right now. You can pick it up on the Oculus Store. And essentially all it's there to do is help you configure your sensor sort of layout. If you've got 2 or 3 sensors, then you can use this to see your tracking area, but in real time as you're in VR. And it actually works way better than the Oculus one, because you can perfectly see what your sensor's tracking area is, and then you can make adjustments if there's like a clear sort of dead spot in your tracking area, and then you can sort of adjust it and run it again, and then you can just sort of get the best sort of possible calibration for your sensors using this application. So if you're having problems with your sensors, then definitely check out Sensor Bound. Like I said, it's free, and it's probably going to be a useful tool for people out there with an Oculus Rift.
Sounds like Rowdy would really benefit from that, because if you've only got 2 sensors, trying to get that sweet spot. And also, some people have commented online, I was never able to do it, but if you've got 2 sensors, you should be able to get seamless tracking if you have them almost polar opposite from one another. But I never was able to achieve that. I suppose, Rowdy, is yours desk-facing?
You didn't get enough information back then, and now with this tool, you would be able to get a much better look at how you can really.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is Sensor Bound on the Oculus Store. Also this week, another handy tool launched, and that is on Steam VR. Valve pushed an update to the Steam VR beta, adding a new feature called Steam VR Input. Now, what this update allows you to do is configure the button mapping for your VR controllers, because we've got 3 big platforms now on Steam VR. We've got Oculus Rift, we've got HTC Vive, and Windows Mixed Reality. All have their own proprietary controllers, and sometimes when a game is designed for the Vive, for example, like Doom VFR or LA Noire, the buttons can be a bit sort of hit and miss as they're configured to the touch controllers, or maybe the Windows Mixed Reality controllers as well. So with this application, you can actually configure it, completely customize it to your own preference. It can be used by people at home. It can be used by developers to add sort of alternative control systems to their games quickly and easily as well. But the great thing about this is, and not only just the fact that we can remap all our buttons, but for people that have disabilities that maybe don't have 2 hands, for example, they could map some of the buttons from the left controller to the right controller, and then they can actually start getting involved in some of these VR titles as well. So I think that's a really great, update from Valve, and I think it's going to be great for people that maybe have limited movement in some limbs, or they've got disabilities. They're going to be able to play these games as well, because you can map a lot of these buttons also to a controller. And I know there's a lot of like specially designed disability sort of controllers out there that people can use as well. So
I presume you're intentionally segueing into the Microsoft news, Mike, are you? By any chance?
I wasn't actually, but it's worth mentioning, because Microsoft have brought out their own controller, which they worked in conjunction with a company to produce, and it is just solely designed to be configured for people with limited movement, like disabilities, that kind of thing. And that controller would perfectly work with this setup. And now you can sort of configure it and customize it. Nice. And maybe that's why Steam VR maybe did this. I don't really know, but.
I was super impressed by that. I mean, Special Effect is a real pusher here in the UK, and they announced the partnership with Microsoft and their new accessibility controller. When I first saw it, it looks like kind of like a large NES controller, like in the original Nintendo. It's quite square with rounded edges. But when they exposed the point, like my background is electronic engineering, and so this is just like an input-output box to an extent. Every single button mapping is a different piece. So if you've got something that's on, it's already on a jack, and you can just plug it right in, your existing even boutique controllers that you might have purchased from like, makeshift companies will work with this setup. It's really thoughtful of them. And the fact that they've worked on this for 3 years and came out with it and are backing this, I can't remember the last time I've seen accessibility driven so hard by a company. It's great.
Yeah, it really is fantastic. I love that they're sort of pushing forward on this. If you want to try out the new update, the Steam VR input sort of beta, all you need to do is make sure that you're on the beta branch in Steam VR. So just go into Steam, select the drop-down menu to select the beta, and then let the update roll. And then you just go into the menu in VR, and then you can configure the control.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. So moving on from that to Beat Saber sales, because we've got some huge congratulations to the Beat Saber team. They've sold over 50,000 copies of the game across Steam and Oculus in the first week of sales. And this would sort of equate to roughly around $1 million in revenue. So they have to obviously split that with Oculus and Steam for the platforms. But there'll be a good chunk of money for them. But this was reported directly from their Twitter page about 5 days ago now. So if you can imagine now, the number's probably more looking towards the 100,000 copies sold right now, Mark, I would say.
I remember something that Nathie mentioned. Do you remember the first week when I think it was Fallout launched? And I think we were saying it was something either between 12 or 20,000 copies that it had sold. So like the big titles don't sell that hot, and so this is huge.
Huge, it's huge, like a huge milestone.
Yeah, but like if we go back to like the launch Bethesda did with like Fallout and Skyrim, it was very popular within the VR community. This game was popular within the VR community and outside of the VR community, and that's why it sold more. Because it has a much bigger range. Let's say if someone sees Beat Saber who doesn't own a VR headset, but then tells someone who does own a VR headset to buy it and wants to try it too, then it gets much bigger.
I've seen so many comments on videos of Beat Saber of mine of people that said like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy a VR headset just for this game." Yeah. And I'm convinced that a lot of people actually bought a VR headset just to play this. I really think.
But I also think that the numbers we see here is actually like maybe triggering like a big chunk of the VR community who really buys it, where they are all on board suddenly, It doesn't happen that much. Like these sales can happen if you really have a good marketing strategy or a really nice game, So this is one of those moments where you can see that there is a big market for VR already, but you just need to find a way to make it happen.
The big thing with Beat Saber was that they actually had zero marketing budget.
Yeah, they actually had no marketing
at all. And it was their relationship with Live, who are the mixed reality studio that make the software for mixed reality capture. That partnership together made it viral. Yeah. And then they sort of had this marketing campaign they never had to pay for. And then it was gold from there. And the game's great as well. That helps, obviously, of course.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And this will also give more opportunities to like other devs to see like the results right now. They're like, okay, so it can actually happen. So if you make a very good game, let's say if you got a single player game selling this well, with like a storyline, etc., then that's going to really hit hard. within the whole like VR market, because people are like, wow, this is so cool. Like this is just a small part where you can be a Jedi, but next up you can be something else. So this is one of those moments where there are so many people suddenly more interested in the whole VR concept. Well, when they see other games, they don't feel that triggered to really get a VR headset or spend more time like researching it. You know what I mean?
I think as well, like with the mixed reality capture, you could watch that video and understand straight from watching that video that person is in that world and they're enjoying it because of the way that it's filmed. Whereas if you just have a first-person view, it's very difficult to portray in a VR headset.
And as a creator, right? I mean, for each of us, one of the nice things about a game like Beat Saber is it's physical. This isn't like some slob sitting with his potato crisps on the couch, right? Like drinking a beer and just like keying into his Xbox controller. I mean, this is a really physical thing. So it goes back to something that I know a while ago Rowdy mentioned. You know, you're gonna have VR fellas going out and be like, someone's like really buff up top, and they're like, geez, he must be into VR.
VR CrossFit. You know?
Let's make it happen. Let's trademark that right now.
But I think that you know, exercise is a real seller. Like, I mean, this went viral, but also, I mean, Mike, you said something about your wife. My wife had the same thing where she's like, can we set a date and do more? Like, she's asking me to do more. And my wife and I are both huge gamers. It's not that. This is just, they really hit fun and that polish. And the other thing that we mentioned last week, just in case people aren't aware, they've now opened up to custom songs. So you can actually play. I don't know, are they on the Steam? I haven't done it yet. Are they plugged into the Steam Workshop, or how do you play a custom song at the moment?
So there's tons of different guides out there to play custom tracks. One is that you have to go to a website. They've got all the tracks there. They've already sort of compiled the sort of track layout and the song. You basically download them both, and then you can sort of inject that into the Beat Saber game library using a tool. So if you want to do it, then there is ways, and there's guides out there you can follow.
It's because of copyright reasons that they maybe don't want to have it on Steam.
Yeah, exactly.
And talking on that point, actually, because exercise for VR, it is a huge thing. It's convincing a lot of people to go in there. I don't know if you guys remember that episode of Dragon's Den with Jan Goedgeluk from Virtuix when he went on there. He actually portrayed it as a gaming device, but a lot of the dragons that were sitting there, they were very interested in using it as a fitness device. Like if they were saying immediately, if we can put this, for example, in a fitness center, you know, have people practice on that while playing, like, or walking in a certain environment, that'd be a huge selling point. Of course, when they heard the price, they were a lot less interested because it was freaking expensive. But I think exercise is a huge selling point for virtual reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So congrats to the Beat Saber devs. Great work, and look forward to seeing what happens next, because although they keep saying they can't talk about it, which probably means that it is happening, which means that a PSVR version is probably likely to be coming soon. Every time anyone asks any questions. Oh,
I'm hoping for Oculus Go.
I talked to Jan about it in our sort of interview.
Keep doing that, Nathie,
and,
please.
You don't need more.
Because what I said is possible is that, say you have a blue lightsaber, you could just push a button to then change it to a red lightsaber. So you could just push the button in between changing the lightsaber colors. So it could work, but I think the focus right now for them is to keep updating the game, make sure it's super stable, add more tracks, bring PSVR out, and then they'll focus on something else. But it's funny because when I mentioned Go, he hadn't even tried the Oculus Go yet, Jan. So, but when I said about Santa Cruz, I said obviously that's going to be a 6DoF headset and a 6DoF controller setup. He was like, well, of course we want to be on every 6DoF controller setup system. So there you have it, sort of inside that it's likely coming to Santa Cruz when that comes out.
One bugbear though with this game.
If they release it on the Oculus Go, I don't think there will be a single person who doesn't have an Oculus Go that won't buy it.
Yeah, of course. Of course, it's huge. Yeah.
No, it's really...
It's going to be silly playing it with a controller then. I don't think they're going to do that, but...
Who knows?
It's possible, but like the one thing I was going to ask you guys, what was your reaction in Beat Saber when you first saw the cube with the dot?
So you could just slash it any way you want, but I get people want to stab it.
Stab it. That was my first reaction. Of course, stabbing it.
Of course, because you're a rowdy guy. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So my wife was going crazy stabbing it. I'm like, no, honey, I think you just slash it from any direction.
Yeah.
But
I was stabbing it like, why is this not working? Like, sweat dripping from my face. Tutorial.
Yeah. Noob. Okay, so moving on to the final part of sort of our quick news this week, and that is Oculus events have been available on Gear VR and now obviously the Oculus Go, but now they're thankfully coming to the Oculus Rift.
Good.
Now, this is an easy way to see upcoming community events such as from developers such as like Alt Space Hangouts, Poker VR tournaments, live streams, movie nights, and you can see how many people are going to the event, like who's attending, and then you can sort of say, yeah, I'm going to attend this event, and then before the event you get notified that it's going to happen to remind you, and then you can sort of join in with the fun as well. So it's cool that they're bringing these features over to Oculus Rift. Kind of seems weird that's placed like when they developed them for Oculus Go and the Gear VR. But for me, the big thing that I want to see come to the Oculus Rift from the Go is Oculus Rooms, because I think Oculus Rooms just works so well, right? And it's such a cool place to hang out with your buddies. Yeah. Everything works so seamlessly. Why that isn't on the Rift with cross-platform with the Go,
I still wonder why Oculus Home on PC still doesn't have a decent friend system. Like it hasn't really improved at all. And if you then play Oculus Rooms, my days, that's awesome. I think it's
the
way you can invite people over and things like that. It's just like you can stay in one place and just hop over to the next thing without going to your PC or do something funny by clicking on your keyboard or anything. Like you can just go from one place to another without getting disrupted by anything else, you know? But it's funny, though, they use the friend system of Oculus Home and they just transfer it to your Oculus Go account, and then you just see the potential of it. But it's maybe slow steps here on PC, but they could have already made like an online feature where you could join with friends and things like that. So I don't really know what they are waiting for. But now, since Oculus Rooms is there, just bring it to PC, and then change the characters as well of the avatars we have right now. In my opinion, they don't make any sense. I don't feel the personal level of them. They all wear glasses. I don't see the reason of that. Then use the Facebook Spaces avatars.
You know why they wear
Oculus Rooms, best combination ever.
Because it's to avoid like that uncanny valley. Because as soon as you see eyes and they're not moving, you immediately know, like, it's not real.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can develop that. Like, if I play Rec Room, I always feel like there's much more interaction there, even if it's kind of random. But
it's a different art style.
Yeah, but if you played Facebook Spaces lately, like the way they play with eyes now is a lot better, and it feels way more personal. So I think they can do more with that. But we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting, but it does sort of seem apparent that they've been investing a lot of time behind the scenes on the mobile stuff, and which hasn't been apparent to us Rift users. But now that we've got it on this platform, we're like, it should be on every platform, right? Yeah. But like you say, I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming.
It was promised, wasn't it, Mike? I think it was actually promised in the. I think Zuck, when he was on stage at OC4, promised that there was going to be multiplayer in home, what Nathie was actually asking for there. So I think it's probably a release coming in the next number of months. I think
I've been talking about multiplayer stuff for a lot longer now, but it's just that I don't really see much happening. Like you can add a friend on Oculus Home right now. You can't really message them as far as you can invite them, but how many times do you really invite someone in Oculus Home? It rarely happens, and now with the Go, it's so easy. You just gather first, then you jump into the game. Perfect. That's how it works.
And it just works flawlessly. Yeah, it does.
It works really well.
Yeah. So let's move on to our first main topic, which is Boss Key Studio. Now, for those of you that don't know the history of Boss Key Studios, it was founded by an awesome dude called Cliff Basinski. He was heavily involved in the development of the original Gears of War, which was on Xbox, and then he became like a rock star celebrity in like the game development world. He was really, really cool. He was working for Epic Games, and then he left Epic Games and founded his own game development studio called Boss Key. This was about sort of 4 years ago. Now, Boss Key made a game called Lawbreakers, which was like a pancake game, but it was like an anti-gravity first-person shooter. But the problem was, like, at the same sort of time, it had to contend with competition like Overwatch, and the game just didn't do very well and didn't sell very well. So the studio sort of took a new direction and focused on a new game, which was called Radical Heights. And that was kind of like their take on the Battle Royale genre. And then, lo and behold, PUBG and Epic Games come out with the double punch of PUBG and Fortnite, and then Radical Heights just had nowhere to go.
Well, I mean, correction, like Radical Heights came after Fortnite and PUBG, so it's kind of like, hey, we are going to bring something that is not relevant to anyone because everyone is just playing the same game.
Exactly, no one can compete with bias right now.
I mean, he tried at least. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's...
you can't even move 5 clicks on YouTube without seeing a Fortnite video right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, the studio recently, unfortunately, sort of came to a halt, and Cliff said, the studio's unfortunately closing, which is sad news indeed. It's never good to see a game development studio close. Yeah. But as he was sort of closing, he sort of said, these were kind of some of the sneak peek stuff that we were working on behind the scenes, and 2 of the games were actually VR titles. So unfortunately, we're never probably going to get to... Yeah, we're never probably going to get to see these or play these VR titles, but these are the sort of games that they were developing. So the first up was a game called Donuts, where you play as various little cute animals, and you're in these inflatable sort of tubes racing down rivers and streams against each other. Okay. And Cliff kind of described the game as like a Mario Kart on water in VR with animals, So it sounded kind of fun. It's sort of kind of casual, but it could have been a fun one anyway. But the second game that he was talking about sounded way more interesting, and this was the one that really got me triggered. So the game sort of code name in development was either Rover or Dog Walkers. They couldn't kind of decide which name to sort of settle on, but they sort of call it Dog Walkers because dog was an acronym for destructive ordnance on the ground. And if you can imagine these big hulking beast mech machines, a bit like, I don't know if you ever played with the Zoids sort of toys as a kid, but they were basically big like mechs. And if the kind of picture that he showed on his Twitter sort of portrayed these mechs hulking over a huge city. And the idea for the game was that 5 people would team up multiplayer to control this mech, a bit like Star Trek Bridge Crew, but then go up against 5 other mech teams to battle it out in some sort of big brawl in a huge city. Damn it. So it's 5 players in one mech versus 5 players in 5 other mechs. Yeah.
That is the game that we needed.
I know. And this is the thing,
so
like
good.
It sounded so freaking cool. And he said that he was really heavily inspired by the movie Fury, which is like obviously a World War II tank movie, and the Zoids, like I mentioned before. But yeah, I kind of had this vision in my mind of like, someone's like a captain, someone's a gunner, someone's like maintenance, and you're controlling this big hulking mech together as a team, and then
someone is like sweeping the entire time, like
sweeping.
Just
I think that would be the best idea for you.
Yeah,
I don't think you want to do more. No, that's not safe.
Who's the teammate? And
it's like that idea of like working together in like a mech or something else reminds me of that game where you work in like a blimp or something, where you also need to kind of like keep your blimp into the air.
Battlefield?
No, it's not. I mean, Battlefield also has blimps, but it was like a different one. But I like that idea of like having teamwork and then have like a ship or a pirate ship or something like Sea of Thieves, something where you really need to work together to keep something floating or driving or walking or flying.
It does raise a question with me. Like if you have 5 players per mech and you have how much? 6 mechs then?
5 mechs in total.
5 mechs. So there's 25 players per map. It's going to be hard to populate that in a VR game.
yeah, that's true.
And this is what I was going to say. Like, I don't think multiplayer games like this are, ready yet. Like they shouldn't be ready yet because they're just going to die, I think, a second they release because there isn't the player base. Yeah. But a game like this in the future, I certainly like the concept of it. And, the idea of working together as a team to control this huge beast and battle someone else that's controlling a huge beast.
I love that idea. I mean, Rowdy and I played Iron Wolf. Wasn't multiplayer, but we I said to Rowdy, like, I see an enemy. Let's go above like the water, and see where they are. And then we were just standing on top of it, using like a gun, shooting on planes.
We hit 3 mines.
Yeah, okay, we also did that, and we drove into like a ship because we thought it was funny. But in the end, like I did feel the teamwork. I felt the intensity of like sitting in that U-boat together with Rowdy, hearing all kinds of noises, hearing mines, seeing mines, things like that. So having that teamwork going on where you're really responsible for each other is still one of the best concepts for a VR multiplayer game. It is.
Especially if like you could communicate with the other mechs. Like say you got into close range and you could talk to the other team and you'd be like, shall we form an alliance and then gang up on the other mechs, or shall we just fight it out and duke it out? That would be a really interesting concept as well. Yeah. So like the captain has to sort of like, you know, negotiate a deal almost with the other players. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah. So the blimp game I was talking about was called Guns of Icarus.
Oh, it was the steampunk VR game, was it?
Yeah. No, it wasn't a VR game. Just a
wasn't
PC,
VR.
Pancake game, Pancake.
Yeah. So yeah, those were the two titles from Boss Key that unfortunately we'll never see because the studio
we don't even know how much did they even finish of that, because I know developers that always have the best ideas ever and they just make concept art of everything they think of, but then they never made something. So I mean.
Yeah, of course. Like all they had to show was concept art and a game premise. Okay. So I don't think they even started any sort of real work on it. But I thought it was a pretty solid idea, and I do like the idea of it. And maybe if there's a bigger VR base in the future, it would be a cool game to
come out. Start your first like game design lessons now.
Oh mate, I'll be going the way of Bosky within a couple of weeks, I reckon. I don't think I'll be very good at it.
The other thing I was going to say, Mike, is the first one you mentioned sounded a lot to me like what was the N64 game I played? I think it was called Diddy Kong Racing, where you were in little tubs like this, but it was the equivalent. It was on the water, but you were going along, and they had airplanes, and they had the water vehicle, which was basically a little turbine behind a little inflatable. Yeah. And it was actually loads of fun. So would that do well in VR? Do you want sim sickness and on the ocean waving? I mean, you know, I'd do it, but I don't know if others would, you know. So.
Who knows? I don't know if it was like a first person or a third person game, or if you overlook the map, maybe like a Blaze Rush kind of style.
Would do it.
Yeah. But yeah, they kind of were inspired by the game Tubing, TOOBIN. I've never heard of a game before, but apparently it's a sort of similar premise. But yeah, unfortunately, that won't ever come to be, I don't think, nowadays. So yeah, moving on to some other news, and that is the VR League Season 2 is about to start. So last year, Oculus teamed up with ESL, who are the Electronic Sports League, to bring us the VR Challenger League. Now, it was the first sort of VR esports league where the best players of the world could sort of come together and face off in a competitive multiplayer. And they were sort of using games such as like The Unspoken and Echo Arena. And there was a prize up for grabs of like $200,000. And I remember when we went to Oculus Connect, I don't know if you remember this, Sim, but they were showing off a lot of the Echo Arena matches there. And they had this awesome setup there where they had the Echo Arena sort of players on stage. And then you could see their views, first-person views behind them on like a big monitor each. And it was all like lit up with like blue and orange. And it looked really sort of visually appealing.
It was it was clear that they were pushing money at it to say, like, you know, you can tell that they were trying to drive this thing. The people weren't quite. I mean, they put all the food in the event in front of the stage. Like, you want a burger? Go over there. Go look at the cool stage that we got the guys together. So it wasn't like, I'd say energy level was like, they had the setup, they actually had the audience, but I think the audience was there mostly because of the food. Right. But I think I could see that becoming a thing in 3 years or 5 years. I don't know that we're there yet in esports, but it'll come. It'll come, I'd say.
Yeah. And I'm sure they'll be pushing it again at the next Connect meetup. But this year, Oculus and ESL are back together, and they're bringing Season 2 of the VR League. This time, you can compete in competitive games such as The Unspoken, Sprint Vector, Onward, Echo Arena, and also the brand new Echo Combat. So that's going to be interesting as well. And the grand prize is $220,000 for a team if you win.
We have a team, guys. Let's go.
I want to watch. I'll be honest. Like when you said Sprint Vector, that's out of the three the one I want to watch. I want to see the human competitors in Sprint Vector, world-class people, fucking nailing it on stage. Like that would be awesome to see, actually.
Yeah, it would actually. It would. You're right. Because you're gonna have to go hell for leather on that one, and you're gonna be sweating buckets. Like seriously. So
it's gonna be so funny to watch, though.
It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, and if they do it like they did last time, make it this big sort of event and do a nice stage and the way you can see it and everything else, that'd be really, really cool. So the Unspoken competition actually started yesterday, the 18th of May. The Echo Arena competition starts tomorrow, the 20th of May. And then Sprint Vector starts on the 4th of June. So if you want to sort of follow the league and watch these sort of tournaments live, or if you want to take part in the league, you can do that as well. You just head over to vr.eslgaming.com or follow the VR League on Facebook or on Twitter, and you can get involved that way.
Cool.
But yeah, also, I think we would be the worst team because you guys would be like dragging my sorry ass around. That's for sure.
Like a tip from Max, who played some Sprint Factor. He says like you need a lot of space. Yeah, that's true. And he destroyed 3 lamps, so he's an expert.
Wow.
I'll tell you what I want to see next
I'm
year.
looking forward to see him play. Yeah.
yeah. I like that. That's a good idea.
Next year, I want to see miscellaneous songs, so mystery songs from Beat Saber, and people playing that competitively. That's what I want to see.
It's funny because it's funny because when I spoke to Yan about Beat Saber, sorry to go back to Beat Saber again, but it's worth mentioning. Nate, you've said it. They were talking about multiplayer where you can see the other player and the tracks almost like cross over. So the tracks spawn either way, and then there was ways that you could mess up someone else's track,
like Tetris.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said in the beginning, when this game came out, they need to make like a Tetris version of this.
Yeah.
It'd be huge,
Yeah, they're working on it.
Funny as well.
They're working on it.
Or being able to make your own shapes and then just let your imagination go wild.
Oh my God! No.
Like, you know that part where there's like the circle. You can change that to something else, and then you can stick it anyway. It's up to you.
Okay, so let's move on to the Pimax 8K. So we got some updates this week about the Pimax 8K. For those that don't know and have been living under a rock, the Pimax 8K was a Kickstarter campaign, a bit like the original Oculus Rift was. Lots of people backed it, but it has this kind of real huge field of view. A lot of people are very interested in it, and it comprises of 2 4K displays in the headset. So that's why they call it the 8K. But essentially this week they gave some updates, and what they said was the M1 units, which are these kind of like prototype units for testing, are going to be shipped to closed betas testers this month. And there'll be around 10 of those going out to people to test the headset and give them critical feedback, just in case anything needs to be changed prior to the final sort of consumer product. And they also said that the actual headsets themselves, they're looking to ship to backers if the M1 testing goes well in June. So June will be the date that you get your headset if you backed it. And this is for 5K backers and 8K backers. So they're going to be shipping around the same sort of time. They said that the refresh rate for the 8K is stable at 80 Hertz right now. So to put that into perspective, the Rift and the Vive both run natively at 90 Hertz, and the Oculus Go runs natively at 60 Hertz, but boosts up to 72 Hertz. So there's a bit of a sort of a mix there in terms of refresh rates, but if it works, it works. It'll be interesting to see what it's like. But the team are obviously trying to improve it. So worst case scenario, it will be 80. But interestingly, the 5K headset will ship at 90 Hertz. So it's just that they can't reach that refresh rate using the 8K headset right now.
It's fair. A quick clarification, Mike. Was that June 2019?
No, that is June 2018. So in like a month's time, hopefully you will see a Pimax sitting here on my desk, because I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I actually backed the Pimax 8K. Oh, yeah. So hopefully I'll have one here to show you guys.
What was like their first focus on, in terms of shipping it? Was there any? Did they ever tell people when they were going to get one?
Yeah, it was going to be February this year. February. So yeah, that was the original ship month.
The way I understood it, though, it's only the headset, right?
Absolutely.
Any of the base stations yet?
You're 100%.
The controllers also not. Yeah. So you will still need to go and get those separately.
Yeah. Which I don't, so I'm just going to sit here with a Pimax on my face and not use it. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Expensive though, right? I mean, you must be able to pick up some V1 base stations off eBay for somebody who cracked their Vive or whatever.
Yeah, for something that I've already paid $800 for. I'm going to do that. To be fair, I'll probably end up trying to borrow some. But
you're still getting them then later on.
Eventually, yeah. So that's it. Like the controllers, which are these like prototype ones, they're going to be apparently ready in June, July, and they will be shipping in Q4. So really, sort of later on in the year. Same with the lighthouses as well. They're aiming for October shipment for the lighthouses.
It's a very rough estimation, though, with their given.
It is, and they've already slipped a few times already. So it's likely it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
They've also been working with sort of Pi tracking, which is sort of like their prototype, some sort of new tracking module they've got.
Sorry,
I don't know whether that's
eye tracking.
Pi tracking.
Pi tracking.
Pi tracking. So I wasn't quite sure whether this is like tracking pucks or it's eye tracking. It wasn't clear on the update, so I don't actually know what that means, unfortunately. But they're looking to publicly demo that soon as well.
It means
so
I'm hungry, Mike. It means I'm hungry now.
Yeah, exactly. Apple pie. Apple pie's around.
Do we get an
There's
apple pie
my
with
pie.
Pimax, Mike? Because you know.
Yeah. So the audio quality and the specs, they're sort of they're all working on that as well, just to make it the best possible experience for consumers and when they actually finally ships. But the last point on their update was probably the most interesting one. And they said that the Pimax 8K supports Oculus games, and we will make an Oculus gaming video with the M1 demonstrating it. So I was like, what the heck does that even mean? Like, does it mean that they've got some sort of like baked in version of Revive to work with the Pimax?
Yeah.
Or does it mean that the Pimax is going to work with like the Oculus sensors and the touch controllers? I don't think so. I think it's probably more like the first idea. But it's interesting that they even mention it. So it must be one thing that keeps on cropping up in terms of like the community's asking for it.
That's an interesting thing, because as you may know, Revive has been made by someone who likes to stay anonymous, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. But then we have Pimax just maybe going to bring out something like Revive. Is that even legit? Can you even do that? This is the thing, like you're allowed to do.
This is the thing, like Revive had a bit of a battle in the beginning, right? So when Revive first came out, Oculus actually blocked it. They said that they didn't do it intentionally and it was blocked accidentally, and then they quickly sort of removed it because there was a big sort of kickback from the community.
Yeah, but that's like Revive made by a guy who makes software, but this is a company who makes a headset and then says like, hey, you know what? You can also play some Oculus. But in the end, like, it will sell more Oculus games, I guess, but still, it's kind of strange. I mean,
wasn't it?
I like it though. It's very cool, but how is that even? How can you legit like do that?
Yeah, like it's going to be really interesting to see how Oculus react to this. Like you say, are they going to say? Yeah. Are they going to say no? We're not going to do this, or you know?
They should be careful. I'm sure Oculus could destroy Pimax if they wanted to. But
wasn't it Parmalucky who like funded a large part to Revive back then?
Yeah, he did. He did actually. No, like it was actually more recent than that. Like when Parma broke ties with Oculus, he actually pumped a lot of money into Revive as a backer. Yeah, he did do that. Yeah.
The word that like that frustrates me the most about that is the word compatible. Like it supports. Like what does that exactly mean? Like it supports it, but is it? I mean, you have so much more degrees of view. Like what does that mean? And support, like, does that?
So interestingly, like, I'd love to know you guys if you've actually tried this out. Like, have you tried the Vive Pro using Revive with any Oculus titles?
I did. Yeah.
And
I did one title.
Increased resolution and everything else?
Well, that's a good one. I didn't really notice a strange or like an odd difference or something like that.
Yeah.
Hashtag for science.
Yeah, but
of course you've got to, right?
That's a good one, but I don't think I really noticed it. I did notice some more performance issues because like some of the games really need to pull together with like Revive, but
you're gonna be working with a higher resolution, right?
I actually recently removed Revive because it was actually affecting my my resolution, the frame rate of my headset.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
when I tried any super sampling, I always had to like turn it like any lower because of I think there was some kind of conflict with another program on my computer because as soon as I removed that, I could increase my super sampling to.
I think that everything that works with Steam VR is pretty sensitive. You know, it's the same with Vive Part. I mean, that also causes some issues sometimes. So but it's interesting though, and I think it's cool to see people like announcing things like, "Hey, we make our headset compatible with." But I mean, it's Oculus is exclusive. You can't just say that. I mean, it just sounds so odd. I don't know. I like the idea. It's so badass, but it's just you're touching an exclusive brand, and then it's like, hey, you know what? We're just gonna make something for it, you know?
Yeah, and it kind of almost sparks of like they don't have their own content to push, right? So they're just going to use someone else's content instead.
They have their own SDK, right? That they want to push to developers to be, making full use of all the qualities of the Pimax. So developers, if they want to take the full advantage of it, they are going to have to implement the Pimax SDK as well.
Yeah.
So that is a strange decision, I think, to...
Yeah. But that's maybe because then they're like, maybe they don't see a lot of developers really creating content for it, and they really want to kind of throw out some more ideas to kind of save the Pimax for the idea, like if there's not enough content from the developer side, then we can still say like, hey, you can play other games with it that were not compatible in the first place. Yeah. Because like that's the thing, if you are a developer, are you like, how many developers, that's something we don't know yet, but how many of these developers are seriously going to develop as like an extra for the Pimax, Are they going to do that? Everyone knows that developers always focus on maybe the mobile market, on maybe the Oculus Go now, the Rift, the Vive, and then you have PlayStation, that is also always like a big plus. But are they also going to add Pimax to that? We don't know, but we do know that software, or like software, is always winning from hardware in the end. So if there is not enough, if there are not enough games out there, experiences, it's not gonna make it, even that it has the best resolution ever. So that's something that I don't know how much they have been working on that already. But if they are only focusing on the hardware right now, then they got a big problem, because then at the moment it launches, there's nothing really there. So I hope they don't mainly focus on like, oh, let's just make everything compatible, and then you can just play everything, right?
The only thing they need is a good porn app. There we go.
Okay.
You don't want to be up that close in 8K, dude. Seriously, you need a little bit of blur, though. Trust me.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think.
Trust me. Problem solved.
I think
problem solved.
I think Nathie's right in that, the content is king at the end of the day. But I think this is probably what they're hinting at, is that they're working to bridge the gap so it can be used on other platforms. So maybe that they're working on something that it doesn't need a developer to integrate an SDK in or something like that. It would just work natively.
That'd be smart.
Yeah, that would be a smart way of doing it.
But even if it works, right? One of the things I would expect, and this is something I mentioned, remember when Wipeout landed on PSVR? And I said that you could look back far enough that you could see that the ships flying overhead had like a hard cutoff, like it was a GIF, basically. It was just a texture that was painted on the sky. So I'm expecting that if you've got extra FOV in certain games where untested, that's going to essentially be, areas that the developer didn't even think about you were going to be looking, And so some of that stuff will come to the forefront because they weren't expecting players to come across that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as a developer, you're going to make every possible effort to make your game run as fast as possible, right? And if you're going to do that by cutting off the edges here and there, or making this bit invisible, or not, because you're never going to see it on a 110 degrees field of view headset.
But it's not even developers who control that, right? That's NVIDIA and AMD. That's the graphics card drivers and hardware that actually controls what's being rendered in that frame. I mean, there was a very close partnership for the last few years between Oculus and NVIDIA, for instance, in terms of partnering and making sure that you're getting efficiency for what your computer's actually generating. In terms of the
But it's also with Intel, right? I mean, Intel helped Vertigo games out when they were doing Arizona Sunshine. So true.
It's going to be a very interesting few months indeed.
Yeah, because I have so many questions. I just want to have some answers, and I don't get them. And I've been waiting for this thing for like months now. And it's so
because if this thing comes out the gates and actually delivers on everything it promised, then it's going to be like a game changer, right?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, so I am excited for it.
I know it gives this company gives a lot of positive signals, okay? But it also gives a lot of strange ones and maybe negative ones that, I just hope that people really get something for the money they
The thing
spend.
is, I think for simulator games is going to be great, because your hands are going to be away from the device on your head, you know, you're not going to be moving that much around. You know, you look around a little bit, but it's going to be fairly straightforward. So even the refresh rate, I don't think it will matter that much. But if you're going to play like a shooter kind of game or like something where you need to be doing this or
8K Beat Saber.
It's too bulky.
The physical
You're
stuff.
gonna whack that thing.
Beat
Beat Saber
Saber
would destroy that device. Someone's gonna do it. I promise you, someone's gonna do it and knock the headset off their head and break it. That's gonna happen.
They really like. I think I don't know if they are focusing on this already, but they need to create a market for the Pimax, you know, because developers will then make games for it, experiences, and they are also proud to promote it because that's also a thing. You want to like support the headset because you believe in it. And then you will see it popping up on, let's say, Steam, and it has like that icon, but that just doesn't happen out of nowhere. We have seen that with OS VR back then. There were a few games that supported that headset, but then it slowly disappeared again into the background. So, I mean...
So let's move on then to another new exciting headset. So this is the Google Plastic. Now... The future is clear, according to Google. They're constantly striving to make your experience more immersive because that's what we all want, right? More immersive experiences. So what they've done is they've previously brought the affordable VR to the masses with the Google Cardboard, and now they're looking to push the boat out even further and take the next big step with Google Plastic. So this is the new headset from Google. It's the next evolution, let's say, and they're sort of they're trying to make everything you see and hear in this headset real, right? And they actually call this technology actual reality. Now, the Google Plastic is a fully immersive headset that features a really lightweight design. It's fully waterproof. It's compatible with all apps across all platforms. And will allow you to see in up to 20/20 vision if your own eyesight will allow it. It also comes with 360 audio built in as standard. So I really think that this is going to be the next level in terms of
how much does it cost?
The faces are so good.
Yeah, how much is it like? Is it like is it a standalone device or
completely
Pimax is going to get a run for their money.
Wow.
Completely
The
standalone.
resolution is unparalleled in this thing.
You cannot beat the 8K Pimax has nothing on this thing. So yeah, this thing is obviously like a bit of a joke. You know,
I remember this one. Like, is this an old joke or something? Because it's like I've seen it for the first time, but
yeah. So it's I don't know how long this has been around because I only saw this a couple of weeks ago, but I thought it was really funny. Like, it's a really funny video because it was really professionally shot. And when I first started watching it, probably a bit like you guys and girls watching this or listening to me, I was like, this sounds amazing. Like, what are they working on? And then it just turns out to be this complete joke.
Yeah, I was first thinking, like, how are they going to integrate like the screen like through that glass? Yeah. Like, you know, and then I see the guy playing tennis, and I'm like, oh, dude, come on.
You can play soccer, Rowdy. Look at the soccer gameplay here, man.
People are asking in the chat, is it BPA free?
Well, if you're putting it next to your eyes, it wants to be, that's for sure.
And before you ask, Rowdy, the porn app in this one is great.
Yeah, it's like you're almost there.
Someone is also asking, does it have built-in audio like the Go? Everything is so realistic, man. Like, it's
exactly
audio you have never heard before. It's almost like it's real, you know?
Yeah, 360 spatial audio is built into this thing. And free future upgrades. So if you get your eye lasered, like Rowdy did, those upgrades will go with the headset as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
There's actually a web link here to Google Cardboard Plastic, so I'm thinking that. See, I might be wrong here, but I think this was an April Fool's Day joke in 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
It could well have been. Yeah, it could well have been.
I think
whilst I was cutting cables, they were making this awesome video.
Oh man! I thought I mentioned something though there, Mike, because I don't think we have it on the list. Do you have Samsung and their news? Because I was gonna.
No.
I'll just mention it then quickly.
Yeah,
so
sure,
we did talk about the Apple T288, which was the kind of early splash of Apple's AR/VR mixed headset, which is due out in 2020 and may never see the light of day. Samsung have now also said, me too, and essentially said that an AR MR headset is under production from them. So clearly we're at the races. The two big, companies are now running, and I love competition. So let's see who gets there first, eh? But we know it's going to be Apple. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I always welcome competition as well, and I know last episode we were kind of going a little bit hard on the Lenovo Mirage Solo, and we were kind of fanboying a little bit on the Go, but it's because like we've all just got the Go, and we're all very excited about it still. But I do welcome the fact that these other companies are dipping their toe in the water. They are making hardware, and I think there's just a lot of lessons to be learned. I'm sure they can learn some lessons. Exactly. And ultimately, we'll get somewhere where there's going to be an even playing field with all the different headsets. It's just a case of which manufacturer do you tend to sort of align with. But yeah, you're right. It's an exciting time to be alive and be involved in this industry, because I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now behind the scenes. Certainly, people are taking a lot more interest in VR and the VR industry in general. Yeah. And it's only going to go bigger and better from here, I think. So it's very exciting time.
Just in terms of what I would expect, I actually think that Samsung will beat Apple to the market with their AR/VR headset. It'll probably be better spec'd, but Apple will do something to make the form factor absolutely attractive, and it'll just be something where, like that mock-up that we'd seen, which was super slimline, or was just basically taking your phone on a band and putting it on your face. They're going to do something that's probably going to beat the competition. But the thing that always concerns me with these developments is the level of secrecy that's required. People die over this level of secrecy. Like, I'm not even joking. I mean, it's not like, you're fired, if you let that kind of corporate secret out. They will hunt you. Like, that is scary level of corporate, secrecy. So
it's funny because I remember like years ago, there was like a prototype of the iPhone 3GS that was leaked. Or no, it was the iPhone 4, and it was in an iPhone 3GS style case. Yep. So it looked like a 3GS, but it was actually an iPhone 4 because it was the new squarer sort of phone. So they go to real sort of lengths to protect their secrets, and it's really interesting. But like you say, I think Samsung will probably come out first with something because they've already got established in the VR space. They've made the Odyssey, which is a great headset. They've made the Gear VR with collaboration with Oculus, so they know what they're doing. But I think you're right in that Apple will probably come out with something that's really aesthetically pleasing and have that real sort of design to it, because they've got the best designers in the world working for them. They really have.
For all your listeners, Rowdy is making a retching motion, and it appears he is about to lose his lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, though, don't hate on
kissing the ass of Apple.
Don't hate on any mobile phones here, because like last week, I was trolling, of course, Rowdy with like the Samsung and iPhone thing. I mean, both phones are totally fine and brands, but. I was like trolling him on the podcast last week, and then I wanted to activate one of my game keys for the Go, and I couldn't do that on my Oculus Go app on my iPhone, but you could on the Android. So people, if you say something bad about a brand, instant karma. Be careful.
How did you resolve that problem in the end?
I went to the website, and over there you can just activate your keys as well. But I hope it will get fixed, because your phone is like a nice little feature to use, but
good tip.
But in the end, like when we joke about Samsung and everything, like we all brands are fine. I love this just
a year ago as well. So.
Just joking around is the most fun thing ever, especially calling each other fanboys.
Well, that's true. So let's wrap this one up then. Let's ask the chat if they've got any questions while I just go over the sort of times again. So if you've got any questions in the chat, now is your time to speak up and ask us any questions that you've got. So just a reminder, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on Nathie's YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live now at the new times of 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. If you missed the live stream, you can catch up with the re-upload on my own channel, Virtual Reality Oasis, or you can check out the audio version, which is available on Google Play Music and on iTunes. Now, if you leave a review on iTunes, that will really help us out, because no one knows how awesome our podcast is right now. So you should help spread the word and let everyone know. That would really help us out. We would really appreciate it as well.
Well, there is a question from earlier, Mike. So there was an Emma Wiggins asking, who's desperate without a headset, asking if any of the channels are doing any headset giveaways. So if anyone's got anything planned...
I don't think any of us do actually at the moment. I don't think any of us planned. I know that Nathie had. Nathie's had some big ones in the past, right? You've given away a PSVR.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've given away a
I-
PSVR for the 50K, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, I don't give them away like every week or something.
So just find 50,000 of your friends. You bring them over to all the channels.
Yeah.
You get them to sub to everybody, and
Yeah.
boom, there you go. You got a chance
tell you
one
what,
in
if-
100,000.
I'll do you a deal. If you can get this to 50K in a couple of weeks, I'll send you an Oculus Go myself. So there we have it.
There's
Any other?
another one of like Kind Lamb. If you what? Wait. So what is our best horror VR experience we played so far?
From
Best VR experience
Easy.
of all time?
Oh, horror one.
Oh, horror experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be like Face Your Fears just recently on that plane one that I tried. I hate flying, so
Okay.
being next to the window seat and then having a monster like hijack the plane and then crash it, that was pretty terrifying.
Okay.
No, definitely Resident Evil. I
Resident
think that's the best horror experience.
For me, it's Edge of Nowhere because that was like, for a third-person game, that's pretty legit, like a scary thing.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
it later
It's-
on.
it's-
He's not
Different
asking what is the scariest. He's asking what is the best one.
Yeah,
Best one. Well, I mean,
right.
Resident
Yeah.
Evil is like maybe an Edge of Nowhere on if you like third-person platforms, it's pretty good. But
I'm fighting between two. Mike
Dreadholes?
knows my From Other Suns experience. Which is thankfully recorded and maybe jump across the room. But actually earlier, and something that I said on Mother's Day recently, the U.S. Mother's Day, was just Alien Isolation. Because Alien Isolation, AI behind the AI that drives the alien's behavior is bloody terrifying. Because it convinces you that, it's forgotten about you. And then it comes charging back. The audio is really intense.
Yeah,
You're maybe hiding in a
actually-
locker, and then you get eaten.
I have to confess, I didn't even dare to try that one. So maybe that's the one that.
one day.
scary.
One day.
But you didn't even say Dreadhalls. Shame on you.
Dreadhalls I've done. I mean, Dreadhalls is good. Like, I think I want to play it now on the go. I've got it downloaded, so I am planning to do
On
that.
the go. Oh my.
Yeah, but I've played about 200 hours of Dreadhalls. Like, it's not a. I'm not even joking.
Unbelievable.
You know, in a single sitting, I did about 6 hours straight once. So
Okay.
How many of those hours did you have like a mouthpiece in where you're dribbling out? Like,
that's a recent addition to the show, Mike. I don't normally have the mouthpiece.
right,
So
right.
PD
So
says
what-
that Monstrum in VR is also super scary.
Oh my
That one's
God.
Also,
Paranormal Activity, isn't that a VR experience as well?
yes.
Yeah, but it was a bad one.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't like that one. Exorcist looks very good actually. It's episodic, and I'd quite like to try that one out, but I haven't had time yet.
If you want to have
expensive
like
either.
if you want to have like a scary experience in Fallout 4, I recommend you going to the Museum of Witchcraft. Have fun. That's all I'm gonna say.
Enjoy. Cool. Okay, well, let's wrap this show up for this week. We've gone on for long enough, so I hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this episode. We've been talking about a lot of different subjects this week. No real sort of big news, nothing real juicy, but lots of sort of little tidbits for you to chew on. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And we will see you on next week's episode of the show. So until then, goodbye and have a good week.
Bye.
See you later.
See you later. Bye bye.